Alright, so we're going to do another one of these play and explain videos just to kind of check our thought process and see if we've got big thought process leaks in certain spots. We've got two satellites going on ACR. We've got this $44 satellite into a 630, and we've got $22 satellite into a 215. Down here we've got a $100 PokerStars home game. Mid-hand here, I think against these people, this is pretty close. I would think like to blocking the heart. I don't know. I think that's probably bad. I'm gonna obviously 3-bet here. I'm gonna just check and hope to win over here. I guess our call was fine because somehow neither of them had a heart. Everybody in this game is a little suspect. Don't think against good opponents our heart is like ever good against two players there. So it's probably a little dicey. I guess fine to call against really questionable opponents, but even against like really brain dead opponents, I think they show up with a better heart a lot of the time, so we're really only calling for a handful of outs, and we don't really get paid that much when we hit because the 3 flush is already out there. So yeah, I think even though I won that pot, I think folding turn is just probably better. That's what happens when you try to start recording in the middle of a hand. You're distracted and you make bad plays. Also, I'm just a station. You'll notice in this game everybody, for the most part, size is too big. We have a player who actually makes it a reasonable size, so infer a little bit about this opponent based on that he might not be as insane as some of the other players. I'm going to 3-bet this. I don't know how high a frequency this comes in. I think it's a pretty reasonable hand class to do this with. We'll obviously fold this to a jam. Cold call, out of position, obviously should never exist in practice. So this guy's going to have, in like good games, just like exclusively like suited broadways and pairs, I think he can have a lot of stuff that actually still misses this board. Like, we're pretty far down with Jack High. I don't really love bluffing multi-way here, and I think one-dunning it is fine though, with the idea that these guys are just going to call too wide pre, and they're going to have some garbage that we can fold out, and obviously now we're not, continuing, just kind of, maybe we exclusively want to bet with hands with more equity there, exclusively want to bet with hearts, but I don't know, as an exploit here, I'm fine just c-betting small, winning some small percentage of the time against their terrible holdings that all actually beat us for the most part. Apparently, this table is just going all in every hand, so may give us fewer interesting spots to talk about. We would open from the cutoff, not going to open from the hijack. Part of my screen is cut off here. Let's move that into the pane for you. Nothing interesting has happened on this table yet anyways. play this hand. King 10-0, pretty standard open, even this deep from the hijack. You can fold from earlier position. 6 max right now, or 5 max right now. Earlier position doesn't really exist. We want to have plenty of checkbacks here, 4 ways, and so we're going to have some worse kings, but a lot of those worse kings on this board are actually 2 pairs. So I'm going to check. Never planning to do anything but call. Obviously, if it goes like bet, raise, raise, maybe we could fold. But plan is just to check call, check call, check call. When he calls, it does kind of incentivize us to raise a little bit more often, but still don't want to value on myself. I think against these players, it's just really hard to get value from worse if we raise. That's a beautiful flop. We will check fold. Then it checked through, and this happened. We block clubs. We block. I just don't know what this player bets that we beat. I mean, I'm gonna call because I'm a station and because this guy checked back turn. This guy doesn't have a lot of 6s. Like, and this guy could honestly have some worse king X. Like, we lose a lot, but we also, like, I almost want to bluff. I think our hand's too good to bluff. Just call and try to win. Yuck. Yeah, makes me wonder if we even had that bet. Yeah, I mean, that really is like the nut low river, and so we could consider folding. Here's another example of people just going way too big. I'm not going to be raising Queen 5, but certainly will be raising more often into their big opens. I'm not folding a pair, even for this sizing, just because I think people will be c-betting too liberally here, and now unfortunately we have to fold. When guy bets 4 and 7, we have to defend 60% of our range, and middle pair certainly going to be, I think, in that part of the range we have to defend. In theory, this guy is never bluffing, then obviously we could fold. This is probably the bottom at 60. Gonna c-bet small. This is a pretty connected board, so I think certainly could have some big bets. This hand does not want a big bet, so I think this hand is either bet small or check. I'm going to check back the turn. I don't think we get 3 streets out of this hand, and now we can just bluff catch on the river. This, of course, is an open, as is this if it folds to us. 3-bet if it doesn't, and against the limp, like I sort of want to limp behind, but I also want to ISO. Go really back and forth here. Here, it's close. I'm going to fold. Here, I think we could bet for value. I mean, this is a value bet. If we're betting this hand, it's not a bluff. We're trying to get called by worse aces. This guy just rips 60 over our ISO, and you know that sucks. So we're gonna fold. This guy raises gigantic. We would call any normal size check raise here. This guy, we've got 400 hands, mostly nitty stats. I'm just gonna fold. Like, we block a diamond. Makes me really not interested in playing ace high any further. Still 9 levels, so 45 minutes left basically of late reg in this. Somehow, despite losing a bunch of chips, we're still in third. 12 levels left in this. 650, super deep, just gonna fold. Don't really think there's any incentive to open that type of hand class from the button. I have been wrong before, but I think a little higher up, like 980, 870, we could open. I don't think I want to open much worse than that. I'm gonna try ISOing again and hope to not get jammed down this time. Here, against the larger raise size, which, I mean, this deep, it's not insanely large. I think you could raise this sometimes. I'm just going to fold. Ace 10, going to check back. Don't think we get a lot of hands that were behind to fold, and obviously now, like, emblematic of the terrible play in this game, but we are just going to fold. Queen 7 from the low jack, fold. We would play Queen 8 suited, and as an exploit, maybe we could open that sometimes. Play Jack 10-0 here from the hijack. King 9, this deep is probably borderline. Fold the 3 deuce. Here, let's pipe in the rankings just to show you how we're doing in this crappy home game. 44 players, we're in 38th. Start with 10,000 chips. We have lost a lot of our stack, but that's okay. Time to run it up, and there is 13 minutes left of late reg. One pip worse than last hand, one position worse than last hand. I'm not going to play the 2-6-0. Real hand down here. wonder if this squeezes some of the time. Against this player pool, just gonna flat, try to hit a flop. Will not be overcalling. Getting amazing odds, but not really interested in playing four ways with Queen 5-0. Against the half pot, not gonna float. Like, we have to, between the two of us, we have to defend basically 70% of range here. But this player carries some of that burden. We've got a lot of better hands with direct equity, and like, I don't think that's the worst float of all time, but I think when he bets into two players, should have a relatively strong range. Just going to limp behind here and try to get a flop that doesn't look like that. We will be check folding. This, if obviously we'll be folding this too. If depending on where the open comes from, we will most likely call this. Like, this player is a little tricky because they're so short. I think against this player, it's a call. Against this player, I think we could limp or raise. Here, we're just going to call at 40. We're going to want our bluffs coming from more offsuit blocker type hands, but I think that's strong enough for us to play. This is close. Like, I think we can limp a ton at this stack depth. Here, certainly from big blind could have some leads. Maybe from small blind could have some leads too. Hand this strong, I'm just going to put into the check call range. Got a lot of better nines to raise, and this one doesn't need as much protection because of the flush draw. Obviously, you know, he's going to have King 10-0 that we let get there some of the time. Now we just get the block for value and hopefully get picked off by like an ace high or something. When he checks back, you know, he really never has our hand beat unless he has like exactly pocket fives, or, and you could check back a better 9x some portion of the time. Not be calling 17 big jam with ace 3. This is an open if it folds to us. It's a fold if King Scorpio opens like shorter, like particularly from the button. I could 3-bet this hand, but not really interested in 3-betting it this deep cutoff versus hijack. I think because of the blocker, this is a fine open if it folds to us. Expect to get jammed on some of the time by this player, and obviously then we just fold. Go 2.2, give him a worse price, and we pay the price. Get a real hand in the $22 satellite. Apparently we missed an oof from one of the actual competent players in the player pool, my friend Pato. And we basically get no action with the kings, which is fine. not be defending the 5 do so. Try to find some interesting hands to talk about here. All right, this is a tricky one because again he goes so big. I think against this player pool, we got implied odds. Like this could be pretty trash against this. Like maybe we're just letting him off the hook for this sizing, but I don't really want to. Don't really want to raise, and when this player donks like this, it is super annoying because, I mean, we ostensibly beat nothing. Like, we're getting a good price, so I think we're calling for our equity, our backdoor 2-pair and flush draw, but, like, I don't think we ever win this pot. I expect him to bet big, just what I know about player pool a lot of the time on the turn, and we have to fold every time. So, maybe folding pre is just better. I think I really haven't figured out the optimal strategy against some of these mouth breathers with their bigger sizing. Like, I'll be shocked if this range has anything we beat. Like, is 4-5 donking here on the flop, giving up turn. Like, if he bets, unless it's like 4 bigs, I think we're just gonna fold because I think we lose every time. I think this range is almost exclusively comprised of aces that decide to pot control the turn, and we think about we have to defend 2/3 of our range here. Are we gonna have like things beyond aces that call the flop? Like, I think I just fold a lot of my 6s here. So I've got maybe some other backdoor draws that bricked out. I've got some like straight draws that bricked out, but like just think probably just fold pre to the 3x here, save ourselves a bunch of chips, because now we have no chips. This is a call against this position. I mean, we even could maybe jam like this exact combo. We don't want to jam a ton of the time in this lineup, but certainly do it sometimes. I would like to reverse these 2 flops, please. Just gonna fold here with no equity, and gonna call, take that hand back. So the question is, without a spade, do we get the donk? Like, his checks, I think, are going to be very weak on this board because he has so much that needs protection. So I think we're going to go for the double barrel. The idea that this size gets floated a lot, but when it doesn't, that's great. Like, we obviously have many worse hands to bluff first. I'm trying to get away from the stab everything blind versus blind in these little pots, so I think I'm just gonna check call. King high is good a lot of the time in this lineup. Don't really want to get jammed on here. I'm just gonna make it 2.5 though. Again, king high good a lot of the time. Against pot, king high looking less good. We have no club. We have no hope. We can call ace highs. We can call hands with clubs and straight draws and pairs. So needing to only defend half of our range here. Tells me my buddy here firing up the clip for potential suicide bluff. Satellite. I think I'm just gonna fold. I think this is the bottom. Just not that good of a hand. Tell you. This is gonna mix, like at 40 cutoff versus button. This is a pure flat, deeper, a little different configuration. Wouldn't surprise me if it mixes in some or 3-bets pure, but keeping in worse ace-x is never like the worst. Of course, getting value from worse ace-x is pretty good too. We are never bluffing this hand multi-way. Way too high up to bluff, and we have no backdoor equity. Yeah, but we're just going to try to get to showdown. Some better river cards for us, and we still are ahead a lot of the time when no one bets. I don't know if we're ahead any of the time on that card, but not gonna limp behind here on 22 bigs. Just gonna, yeah, we'll obviously cash in our showdown. Still think we lose the vast majority of the time here, but the occasional times we win, it's pretty sweet. Clearly should have looked behind here. Sevens. Pretty dicey. I think with the big blind sitting out, we can open here, but I think that happens a lot, which is why this is like the bottom of the range and why I might have considered folding if the big blind wasn't sitting out. And since this is the bottom of the range, I'm not going to call it off. I think people are like, depends on how wide this guy is doing this. If we had a stat that showed his 3-bet, particularly like 3-bet all in was like $1 million, he's doing this with every pair, then we really have to call. But in this lineup, I don't think we do. Plus, it's a satellite. We don't have to win all the chips. Although we do need to win enough. This is pretty close. So it's a limp and then a min raise. I think I'm just going to fold. Might seem a little nitty, but just like call and having this guy reopen the action is awful. Jamming seems pretty bad. should have jammed. Jamming just seems like we're too low down in the range, that we would just want to this deep, facing a raise over a limp, have a stronger range. I don't know if anybody's ever really made solved ranges though, because it's like, Jesus. If anybody's like, it's kind of hard to make solved ranges at, factoring in limps, because what is the limping range look like? It's hard to really say because the limping range shouldn't exist. So, yeah, like obviously, if we've got enough player pool data to say these guys are just out of control, expanding our jamming range to include king queen there, or even just more of like a small ISO to make it like 4.5 or 5, I think could be pretty reasonable there, because pretty hard to do anything about it if your range is that wide. We will be raised, calling it off here against the small blind. Frankly, we will be raised calling it off against the big blind. And we will not be folding this hand. So I think this is a rip. We don't particularly mind getting it in, because he 3-bets like a lot worse as a bluff. I guess we fold, putting this in. Just get snapped by 10s, and we're gonna lose a flip. Appears that way. And we lose a flip. Let's look at the chart here. No, that's not a fold. Yeah, it's just a pure get in. No, we lose that satellite. Bring this to the top of the screen here. Call this off, of course. Let's look at what's going on in this tournament. 54 total entries. We are 43rd of the 45 players that are remaining. Could re-enter that with like less than 15 bigs, but not really interested in that. Question is, what would we do if it folded to us there? Probably limp that hand. Play a more polarized jam with like offsuit ace X, some offsuit king X, and then I think like the low pairs, and maybe some like some suited stuff. He tells me 6 is not good here. When he bets that sizing, let's say I don't. It's either like very well could be an induction size with like the 7 or the deuce of hearts. Certainly could just be like a 10 of hearts or something, trying to get some small value, or it could just be like a 7 without a heart, like a 4 without a heart, something trying to go for very thin value. I think certainly he'll have some ace of hearts. I think you'd probably just go bigger with the ace of hearts on that specific board. You don't really want to 3-bet against the straight flush combos. He is the only player at the table that I'm giving that much thought process to it all. Player full pops the river. Don't know him specifically. King a lot of the time. But I mean, these players, who knows? Could be like an ace, when like an ace just wins the hand a lot of the time there. We will call this open. If this player calls, we will fold. It's not the type of hand we want to take multi-way. Not the type of hand we want to raise. This is the best flop in the world for this guy. This is a terrible flop for us. Be surprised to know that this is in our folding range. This guy covers us. We're going to do a ton of limping here. We could raise more often just because this guy has pretty nitty stats, but we've got a relatively small sample. So we're just going to try to outplay him post-flop. 10 high, I think we can get some folds from Jack high, King high, Ace high with no backdoors here. So we're just going to bet down and take it. This is the type of hand class that we will just jam if it folds to us. And honestly, like, if somebody opens 3x, I'm going to be really tempted just to jam over the top of that. Like, this is generally how I lose in these tournaments. But, like, against this limp, I'm not making it like 3 when I have 13. Just ripping, expecting to lose most of the time when we actually get called off, but, I want those 3.5 blinds. Playing the king do so. We will be playing this if it ever gets to us. I think we have better hands, meaning worse hands, to bluff if this guy opens. I think have not studied the chart intimately because I'm bad, but doesn't feel like the type of class that we want to 3-bet here. 3-betting can't be the worst, but I just think we would be more inclined to 3-bet like Queen 5-0. Maybe we don't play that low, but yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking about it more, like, you might, like, King 5, obviously I meant suited, not King 5-0 or Queen 5-0, but maybe what we're playing, lower suited kings, we're not really playing as low of suited queens, we're not V-pipping them at all, so I think Queen 9 is going to mix, but like Queen 8 can 3-bet a lot of the time. I still think like the King 7, King 6, King 5 type holdings are 3-bet more often, and as we get more shallow, mixing in more of the offsuit ace-x, and like we talked about in that previous spot, the like Queen 10-0, Jack 10-0, Queen Jack-0 type hands. Blinds are going up, meaning we have even fewer blinds now. It's going to be interesting if like this player makes it 3x, because I'm really not going to want to call that. So I guess I would have jammed. From the hijack, when he just goes 2.2, I'm just going to call here. Obviously, if this player raises or something, that'll change the dynamic. If this player calls, I'm just going to call. King 5 suited, I would have opened here. Would be potentially a V-bet later position against the raise, but not here. No club, no hope. We will be check folding. This, I think, can just be a rip if it folds to us. Certainly too weak to rip over a raise. again, if one of these guys opens 3x, like, it just makes me want to riff over it so badly. Not going to be jamming. Ah, we banked our 3. What a fool. See if we can get another hand before break. Maybe get our chips in the middle. Oh, God. But otherwise, that's all she wrote. I don't know how many interesting spots we had here, but wanted to do this because it had been a while. Looks like we will get one more hand here, and it is the Queen Deuce. So we will not be V-pipping here, and we will be going on break in this tournament against 2.5. Like, this is definitely near the bottom of our defend versus UTG. Like, this might even be below the bottom of our defend. I am, especially against this player who appears to be tighter, just going to fold and call it a recording. Hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to tear apart my decision making. We will talk again soon.